website called Cowbird. And in your program, you'll see a little reading about changing our perspective. I think if we want to find, like the kids' sermon, I don't know how I follow that up. That was so awesome. But if we're looking for our bliss, then it might mean that we need to make a change. And I want to talk about two ways to do that. One, to make that change, and one is more about telling our story so that we're kind of interpreting what's going on in our lives and deciding the meaning of our lives based on how we tell ourselves what's happened. So for me, my story, a bad part of my story happened in 2008. The economy crashed, everything fell apart. I was a bookkeeper and I had all these clients, and guess what? They were all in construction. And my husband was he had his own business. And guess what? He did construction. So for the first time ever for our family, there was like almost no income, and things just kept getting worse and worse as the year progressed through 2008. And there was a point where my husband took off and I sold my house. I looked for a shark and I said, I need someone who has tasted blood to sell my house. And I sold the house, and we got rid of this and we got rid of that, and most of my belongings disappeared, and things that matter were a loss, things that didn't matter were a loss. I didn't have anywhere to go. There was a point where I didn't have anywhere to go. And it all worked out. I'm fine now. But at the time, there was a great emptiness. And it wasn't like I thought, oh, this is such a great opportunity. I should make this happen more in my life. At the time, it was just really rough. And I tried to kind of fix my story even then. It was like, there are things I don't like about my house or my marriage or my whatever. When we first moved in, we had to do some landscaping, and there were no trees and there was no nothing. So my husband and I had this argument. We wanted to put a new tree in the front yard. And the space was like from here to here. It was like this tiny space, and I wanted a liquid amber and he wanted a birch. Well, he won, because the only way you can fit a tree in there is if it's tall and skinny and has a small root system. And a liquid amber is a huge, gorgeous tree that changes colors in the seasons, and it wasn't going to fit there. So I was like, fine, I don't mind not living in the house, it has that dumb birch in the front yard. And I told myself these kind of things anyway, to be ready about it. But what happened in this time is I went through a lot of change. And so this year, and maybe this is why Kristen invited me to talk, is because I've recreated that in some ways this year in my life. I've just been able, I don't know why, to just change things. So my whole life I want to lose weight and I can't. And this year, for some reason, things clicked, and I was dropping weight, and I thought I had all these shoulds. I should this, I should that, to be happier, to this. And for some reason, those shoulds kind of fell away, and yet a lot of the things that I wanted to see happen in my life have started really moving and happening. And I don't think I'm like a yogi or a guru that I know how to find the emptiness and let it, expand. But I've had a little experiment in my life this year having that happen, and it's been quite wonderful, and it's nice for me to have a little chance to talk about it. I think we can get caught up in the values that we've been taught, because we've been taught, most of us here, we were raised by Depression-era values. And so that means, a job worth doing is worth doing right. And you should go for the A, and you should do the very best you can. And I'd like to actually acknowledge Generation Y, which is my daughter's generation, because they're not really go for the A people. They're like, go for the C. That's good enough, right? They really have a very different take on things. And we can see them as kind of lazy, but we can also see them as having a slightly different value system that allows them to do things that are in an easier way. And I think that's something that's happened to me this year. I found this old goal sheet that is actually kind of embarrassing. It must have been from years ago. I've been getting rid of a lot of files and stuff, and I had it taped like in my bathroom cabinet, and these are things that were really important to me. And, I never hit any of these goals. Like, I just didn't, I don't know if they were too big or if I wasn't quite doing it, but this year in my life, this is from many years ago, I'm actually ticking off this stuff. So I think something has shifted, and I can see these things that are important to me being realized. I think when we throw out our goals, we have to say that we're completely open to whatever is going to happen. And then, without rejecting it, and then we'll tell the story that makes sense around what happens in that moment. And for us, this is a matter of trust, I think. I think for those of us who believe in God, then it's a matter of trusting God, that space will be filled up the way it should when we're in this time of loss. Or maybe like this year for me, what I did is I quit my second job because I couldn't think anymore. I Googled burnout. What is burnout? And it was like, you are burnout, Rebecca, right? So I'm like, well, that's because I work on paperwork during the day, and I sit at the computer, and then I do that at night, and then I do it on the weekends, and that's great when you're a single mom and you're trying to crawl out of debt. But there was a certain point where I couldn't think, and I couldn't make decisions very well. I was watching the making of Remains of the Day. So the only thing more boring than Remains of the Day is the making of. No, it was okay. But this producer says, your life does tell a story. And it does make a point, but you don't always know what it is until you get to the end of it. And that the trick of living is to make a series of moral decisions, always keeping that in mind. And the problem with burnout, and we get to the point where there's so much going on, and we're in a society where we're really, we've distorted those greatest generation values. So what was about hard working became about striving and grubbing almost and acquiring. And I think even in our community, which probably is a little more relaxed, it's hard. We're still in Southern California, a very fast-paced area, to think about, to slough off maybe some of those commitments or responsibilities or some time, and or just to look at things in a slightly different perspective. I put a little quote in the bulletin, or I requested that a little quote be put in the bulletin by a writer that I follow on Cowbird, and he's a Finnish writer, and he has a real neat way of looking at things. He talks about his kids quite a bit, and we're in a community on Cowbird. So you write, but when you write, it's not just somebody reading it on some blog. My friends will comment on it, and they're my Cowbird friends, they're part of the network. And so his little take on changing his perspective is so great because it didn't require any time or money. And I think we get caught up, like, if I'm changing something in my life, it must require this huge effort of time and money and not just a shift. And that's what gets really exciting for me. I have this ant poop. Well, I had an ant poop. Probably none of you have an ant poop, but I remember her telling me, I couldn't wait to get older, because when I get older, then I'll be able to have more time. I won't have all those kids' responsibilities, and I won't have all these other things that I have to do. She said, but then when I got older, it was so much harder to do everything that it took extra time, so now I still don't have any more time. And it can be kind of rough, if we're looking to go around the next curve as soon as the season's over, as soon as the next party's over, the kids get out of diapers, or the hard thing is done. if we're waiting for that, it probably won't have time. It's better if it's just something like you put our goal today, just something that shifts today that we can do today. I quit my second job, and so I'm just kind of being open to whatever is. And it's funny because this week I've had to read every single email that came through from Curtis, because what if it was for me? And one of them, yeah. So, I might ignore a few things. One of them this week is advertising a job for Sunday school teacher, and I'm like, maybe I could apply for that job. But I wouldn't have that opportunity if, you know what I mean? I was doing my other jobs and sitting like this and not being here, because I would have told Kristen no. So I guess it's about sloughing off some commitments, but it's about taking some up as well. I like an old-fashioned word, quietude. That's something that I've tried to adopt. I'm a very type A person. I don't allow myself those moments of reverie and thinking too much. And I've noticed this year, as I've had more and more of this kind of downtime, that the creativity in my head starts sparking, and the pistons start firing, like I can think more clearly. So that's been something. And one of the things I titled my talk today, Hacking Bliss. And I'm guessing that there might not be anybody in the room who knows what hacking is. Maybe Curtis. It can be like computer hacking, where you're like, you don't have to know the passwords or work at the Pentagon or any of these things. You just get straight through because you hacked it. Well, if you're hacking, say, sleep, you don't have to get 8 hours of sleep. You can get 4. And you can go online and say hacking sleep, and they'll give you all these crazy ways to hack your sleep so you can take a shortcut. This is very Generation Y thinking. Okay? So hacking bliss is the shortcut. And it's more of a hook. I'm not really talking about hacking, although there are some good hacks. I was definitely doing the modified Cobra hack before I came up. You cross your ankles, and it kind of shuts down your fight or flight response. So I'm not as nervous if I can press the palms of my hands together. But I think we can think of it as a shift, that there are these small things in the way we go about our daily lives that are habits that aren't really supportive or effective. And that's what I've turned. I wrote a list of all the things I've changed this year. And it's crazy because I don't change anything. Like, I'm not a good change person. And I'm not going to share any of them, but I did this list of all these things for this year, and I was like, wow, next time I'm going to do an exercise where I make a list of all the great benefits these changes have made in my life, because it has been really one of my greatest years, and one I have the most gratitude for. I just want to close by saying that in our quest for bliss, I want to say a couple of things. I think one way to make this shift really work and be helpful to us is to think of it in terms of our motivation. Sometimes when we get really caught up in it just being for us, we shut ourselves down. And it might just be the way we're raised up, or maybe how people are, that if we say, well, I'm learning meditation so I can be a better whatever, we stop ourselves from making that change that's really cool. But if we remember that the motivation is bigger than that, it's not just for me, but it's for the people I come in contact with. It's for my friends and for my loved ones. If I can make this change to be a little healthier, a little happier, more open, or whatever it might be, that it can be incredibly expansive, and our energy goes up like crazy, so that the little time or effort that it might take is rewarded with something special that comes from the people around us, and this boost in creativity, energy, and for me, who I'm a little bit fun challenged, I don't really do fun, so it's been a big boost in fun in my life. If I had a goal to say, I want to have more fun, I don't think, I just couldn't figure out a way to do it. But this is a way that I can approach that and notice, wow, everything that I'm doing is a lot more fun. Every morning when I wake up, I look out my window at my liquid amber. And I do. And the morning doesn't go by that I don't live in appreciation for this tree. Actually, it's not mine. It's part of the condo complex that I live in that is literally 5 feet from my bedroom window and can be seen from any place in my room. And it's so meaningful to me that that's a part of my story now, and that's the story that I get to tell. I think it is a lot about what I'm choosing to focus on, because I don't think there was ever a time when I said, look for this tree when you're finding the next place to live, or, you know, something like that. It just happened, and it's been a really wonderful experience, kind of like talking to you today. So I appreciate the time, and thank you.